Hey everyone, I'm Drew. For those of you who don't know me, I'm our lead process improvement manager. Happy to be here. So let's go ahead and get started with our 8 wastes. So a waste is defined as anything that adds cost or time without adding value. So there's basically anything that's non-value added to our process or our customers is a waste. And in the lean world, they call this a muta. There's all kinds of funny lean words that you'll discover as we go through this. So these are the 8 wastes. We've got inventory, we've got motion, which is literal body movement. We've got transportation, overproduction, waiting, defects, non-utilized talent, and excess processing. So in this next slide, we're going to go through each of these wastes a little more in depth, but as I go through each of them, I want, if anybody could just shout out a waste that you see in your own job functions or duties. So starting with the first one, we've got defects. So a defect is production that is scrap or requires rework, basically anything that is done incorrectly the first time. So this could be scrap, this could be time spent fixing errors, this could be errors that get sent back downstream. As we're going through these wastes, the whole idea of identifying a waste is to contribute to continuous flow. So that's the idea of lean, is to get every process flowing continually from one to the next. And so as after today and as you're going back through your jobs, just think about how you might be able to look at what these wastes are and ways to get rid of them. Okay, so the next one we've got overproduction. Making or doing something before it is truly needed to be done. So this could be printing paperwork that could change before it's needed. Any process done on routine, regardless of current demand. Doing work too early or too soon. And this just contributes to excess inventory. All right, we've got waiting. So waiting is time in between work and process when no value is being added. So this could be if anybody has a slow computer, you're waiting to open up an application, just taking too much time, slow internet, waiting for an approval, waiting to hear information back from someone, waiting for clarification, or just time in between one process or the next. So I'm sure all of you, waiting is pretty self-explanatory. There's a lot of waiting that happens. So just finding ways to reduce the amount of time in between. Next one, we've got non-utilized talent. So I actually have the Toyota Way definition here, and it's losing time, ideas, skills, improvements, and learning opportunities by not engaging or listening to your employees. Not using people effectively. So if you have somebody who's doing one job, but really they might actually be better at doing a different job, that's non-utilization of talent. Wrong person for the wrong task, things like that. I'm sure we've seen that.
If we look at waste and reducing waste, we used to have our dispatchers handing out keys in a book. Well, that's non-utilized talent, right? Their talent is handling those emergencies, answering the phone, dealing with our students and our parents. So handing out keys and books, that's just a waste, right? So as you look at your lean processes, you'll identify waste that you might be doing or that your peers might be doing or your employees, and that's the non-utilized talent piece there is when they're doing something that's just wasteful and doesn't, isn't a true indicator of their talent or what that position requires.
Like Don was saying with our dispatch department, we had drivers waiting in queue to get their books. So we actually freed up about 4 hours of extra ability and capacity for our dispatchers to take parents' calls, to take routing information, and now a driver just goes into the location, grabs his keys, grabs his books, comes back out 30 seconds less. Before, it could be 5 minutes before they got their book, if they're the last one in queue. Now a driver can grab what he needs at the time he needs it, and then just go through the process. Non-utilized talent. It also reduced waiting, so it was 2 wastes on that thing. But we're going to save about 4 hours a day of just stress on the dispatchers just doing this. Yeah. When we can be calling schools, we talk to the parents, we can work on other different things. So good project, but yeah, go ahead.
Great. So next one, we've got transportation. So this is the unnecessary movement of materials or work in process. So this could be moving paperwork on your desk, multiple handoffs, handing off things to other people, distributing unnecessary copies to everyone, moving things in and out of storage, or just going back and forth between terminals. I mean, we have a lot of transportation involved in a lot of our processes here, and that's, I think, a big opportunity to look at as far as reducing waste. Anybody have a specific transportation piece they want to share?
I do. Sometimes I'll get a work order saying, can we get these 10 desks to this school? We'll take them over there, and they're not in the condition that they want them or they expected them to be. So they say, "Oh, never mind, take them back." So that was a waste of driving over there and then taking them back.
Yeah,
So
that's a huge waste.
transportation and a defect, two in one. Yeah.
Good.
Good. All right, next waste, we've got inventory. So this is excess raw material, work in process, or finished goods. So anything that requires batch processing can lead to extra inventory, excess or expired supplies you might have, or just anything that's sitting around waiting to be used. So we have a lot of warehouses, a lot of places where we store things, and it obviously contributes to extra inventory. So just looking at your operation, see if you can find a way to reduce that amount so that you just have the amount that you need when you need it.
So I have a great example of that. When we were organizing our North Terminal, we walked into one of our supply cabinets and there was 3 months worth of toilet paper on hand. And I asked the question, like, why do we need 3 months of toilet paper on hand? I mean, don't we have a process to figure out when we need to order and how we need to order it? They're like, I was afraid of the person wouldn't order it. We don't want to run out of the toilet paper. But I mean, these boxes are big and taking up space. So the root cause is we need to go back to figure out what the issue was, which we weren't comfortable in our ordering scheme to figure out what we need just in time. Instead, we were like, okay, let's have 2 or 3 extra boxes of toilet paper. If you kind of have those things throughout the whole district, it adds up pretty quickly, because how much is 2 extra boxes of toilet paper? Well, somebody wants to keep 2 extra boxes of something else, 2 extra boxes of this. Next thing you know, your area is cluttered, and when the area is cluttered, it's hard to find something. So now you spend more time moving things around before you actually get into your job to be able to do it. So.
And I talked to some folks from the O&M group, went through one of our modules, and one of the projects that one of the guys did was to 5S his truck. As he was 5S'ing his truck, he found light bulbs. Well, these light bulbs we don't even use anymore. We can't use them anymore. So we had an abundance of inventory just in case we needed them, and now that's just a waste. It's a waste of money, dollars, time. He was moving them to get to the stuff he needed. He's carrying them around on his truck when he could have been carrying stuff that we actually use. So I asked, why did we order all of these light bulbs? And same, answer. Well, I was afraid I wouldn't be able to get them when I needed them. Well, then we've got a problem down the path, right? We've got to fix the initial problem that allows us to get the inventory on time for what we need to do when we need to do it. So inventory is a huge waste.
All right, next one, we have motion. So this is so any non-value-added body movement employees perform during the course of work. So this is literally just walking around, walking to a copier, walking in between offices. So this is really related to your workspace and just the way you do your job functions. So looking at and 5S'ing helps with this, if you can create a workspace that allows you to just efficiently get what you need, have it right there, not have to go walking around looking for it, have access to all the things that you need to do, tools, whatever that may be, but looking at literal motion of bodies. So how can I reduce the amount of time I spend, walking to places or picking things up or moving them?
Think about Cardinal Health. Did you guys see the workstation that they had? And they had the tape, they had the tape guns, they had everything they needed to work at that workstation, and they didn't have to run around looking for stuff, right? It was all there, all the tools they needed were right there, all day, ready to be utilized. So they weren't wandering around looking for stuff.
You can also look at it as far as your transportation. I mean, literally your motion from school to school, and trying to map that out to optimize your time and your drive time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So as you kind of work through the lean journey, there's a couple of tools. There's a spaghetti diagram, and you actually start tracking how you travel and where you travel. And it's amazing because when you really don't think about things, you actually walk quite a bit to do different things. Well, I'm walking to the copier to get this. I'm walking back to my truck to get this tool. I'm going to this school because it has the parts I need. And once you start actually figuring out your whole process and looking at it through a value stream tool, it's also another lean tool. You can see how much you can save by just kind of planning out what you need to do before you need to do it, and actually looking at the velocity of stuff you need. You know, I used the example in previous ones. When you sit down on the couch to watch a football game, right? You're going to have your pretzels or chips right next to you. You're not going to keep on going back and forth to the cabinet to get your pretzels and chips. If you want something, what do you put on pretzels? Horseradish or something?
Ranch.
Ranch dressing. I mean,
Cheese.
cheese. I mean, something you use all the time. Make sure it's close to you. And the administrative side, I was working with my secretary. She had the file cabinet she was opening up every single day on the other side of the room. Today we moved it literally 2 feet behind her. So, I mean, reduce her travel time, reduce the motion. So now all she has to do is turn her in her chair. It's ready there, and she grabs her stuff. Something simple like that can add 2 or 3 seconds over a course of a year, adds up pretty well. So.
Yep. All right, last waste here we have excess processing. So this is taking non-value added or unneeded steps to finish a process. So more processing than is needed to give the customer what they need. So this can be an inspection, should set up the process so that you make your product the right way the first time. You know, this could be unused reports or statements, just anything that you find during your daily process that you're just doing unneeded steps, things that don't add any value to what you're actually trying to do. Does anybody have an example they want to share about it? Yep.
Group leads, we do an awful lot of inspections. Building inspections, stormwater, playground, monthlies, weeklies, you know, so those could probably be looked at as, can you somehow tighten that up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So I came from a manufacturing environment, and instead of finding the root cause one time, one of the suggestions was, let's do a triple check on it. And he goes, it's not really value added. The customer doesn't want to spend the extra man hours to get a triple check. So, you know, go back down to the root cause of, you know, how many times you have to check something. If it's something that's failing all the time, then you adjust your tracking and your checking accordingly. If something has 3 or 4 years of good quality work, maybe you don't check as often. You got to figure out what the regulation, you know, requirements are. But just be able to adjust it and ask that question. I had this one shipping personnel that would routinely run an hour-and-a-half report, and I had to fill in her for one time. And I like, wow, why are we running an hour-and-a-half report all the time? We can automate it. No, I really like to just run it the way I am. We can automate it. It took like 5 minutes to figure out how to automate it. But she was like, can I go back to the old way? I'm like, no, you know, you don't need to go, because it was a triple check on that process. You automated, the system told you what the answers were, created the information for you. So be able to ask that question why, and then figure out, you know, by data, if that's a good process or not. If it's a bad process, get to root cause and you make some corrections, then you can add an extra check. But if it's a process that's 99% perfect all the time, maybe you don't need a quarterly check on it, that kind of thing.
All right, so we're going to watch a video. And when you look at your processes, the very first thing you're going to do is go out there and look for the waste, right? And we call that walking the Gemba. Go out and see what's going on. You can't sit at your desk and decide that you're wasting time, right? You may have an idea of it, but you have to go out and truly see it, touch it, feel it, to understand what's going on. And we call that walking the Gemba. So we're going to walk the Gemba here in this video, and as we're going through it, just feel free to talk about the waste that you see that we can identify as we're watching this video, okay?
So the video is about making toast, and just kind of watch the process and look for the 8 waste and think about the downtime.
I'm making some toast for my wife.
Now he's walking back, right? So he put the bread on the plate, and then he put it in the toaster. Is that a waste of movement, right? at this. What do you think about that? What would you say? What kind of waste is that? Inventory, right?
Yeah.
He had like 3 gallons of milk in there, so he has excess inventory that he had to move around to find the thing he needed.
Doing a lot of waiting.
Yeah. Started getting frustrated,
Yeah.
right?
So what about the toaster itself? Well, maybe it's a very old toaster and it doesn't perform the job duty that it needs to perform, right? So you guys are right, he could be doing the dishes, right? So we have non-utilized talent standing here, waiting, not doing something that he could be doing. What about the travel time to get the butter from the refrigerator? You know, if he had the toaster over there with the bread and the refrigerator, he wouldn't have so much walking.
Yeah.
And why didn't he move the fruit bowl? That was just a waste, right?
Yeah.
Extra processing.
Yeah. So now he puts all the toast, he moves it again. Yeah. Now the butter's too hard to put on the toast, right? What else you guys seeing? Well, now he's taking the toast off the plate to put on the counter. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Frustrated, man, right? So a lot of times when you start rushing, you start defects, making mistakes.
And you get frustrated, right?
Yeah.
Honey, I made you some toast.
Is it raisin toast?
So he did all that work for nothing because he didn't know what the customer really wanted,
Yeah.
right? He didn't bother to find that out. So we go through overproduction of stuff because we don't bother to find out exactly what's needed.
So if you think about that too with your work orders too, sometimes a work order may be very vague. They want some toast, but actually they want this, this, and this. You really don't know what their expectations are. I mean, if he went out and said, hey, what kind of toast would you like? Would you like butter on it? Okay. Now he knows what the customer wants. Now he can figure out what he needs to do to make sure he doesn't do a lot of wasting time. He could have done the dishes, right? He could have watched some TV. He could have organized the counters a little better.
Cleaned out the fridge.
Cleaned out the refrigerator.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some old stuff in the fridge that was, he couldn't find because all the, 3 gallons of milk in there. So definitely some opportunities.